We are live now, and I'm going to go ahead and introduce us. We've got people already joining. Good morning, everybody. So excited about this Earthbound Live with Laura Pritchett. We are here starting another Earthbound Live with the author and professor Laura Pritchett, who I've known for a long time and greatly admire. And these conversations are about why it matters to us to be connected to this earth and all the beings we share the planet with every day. And they're in support of my forthcoming book, which I'm just going to hold up in front of my face because there it is. Okay, that's what they're for. And I want to say a little bit about Laura before I even ask her the first question, because she has the coolest bio ever. She is the author of 7 novels, and I have to say her first, Hell's Bottom, Colorado, which is how I got to know her, won the Penn USA Award for Fiction and the Milkweed National Fiction Prize. The next novels include Skybridge, Stars Go Blue, my absolute favorite, not that they're not all great, Red Lightning, The Blue Hour, Playing with Wildfire, and Three Keys, which is the newest, and that is a fun novel. They've gotten lots of awards. The Willa, the High Plains Book Awards, the Colorado Book Awards. Stars Go Blue has been optioned for TV rights, which we all know is kind of a crapshoot, but it's a very cool thing. And then she's written Great Colorado Bear Stories and Making Friends with Death, a field guide to your impending last breath, which is a great book. And a play, Dirt, a Terra Nova expedition. She has also authored 3 anthologies about conservation, one of which I've been in. And she's written for everywhere. The New York Times, Orion, The Sun, Salon, High Country News, Terrain, Creative Nonfiction, Camus, and so on and so forth. And she's a regular columnist at the Colorado Sun and Writers on the Range. And the other part of her passion and her work in life is that she developed and directs the MFA in nature writing at Western Colorado University. And let me tell you, it's a unicorn. There are not many MFA programs that even think about this earth, much less environmental writing. And she also teaches around the country. And I love how she ends her bio. When she's not writing or teaching, she's often found exploring her home state of Colorado. And she closes her emails always with this lovely phrase, "May you have a beautiful day on this beautiful planet." Welcome, Laura. Thanks for being with us and making the time.
Oh, Susan, you know how much I love you and your work. I'm so happy to be here. And hello, everybody out there.
We have a really lovely crowd joining us here. I would say hi to everybody, but there's already too many names. Thank you all for being with us. So let's start here. What does terraphilia mean to you?
Well, I would say earth fondness. I would say our inherent intrinsic affection for the earth. And with it, we are whole. And that directly comes from you and Richard, who came up with the term, I believe, both of you in conversation. And it's such an excellent addition to the lexicon of our world. So that's what it does mean to me. I would add a few other words that come along with it in my mind,
Please.
which I know you've written about too. Wonder,
Mm-hmm.
the sacred,
Mm-hmm.
harmony, equanimity, um, global ecological enlightenment, I would add. And then I guess I was thinking about this on my drive home from the mountains this morning. And I would say that our affection for life is and should be a far-sighted affection.
Mm.
Like to move it's not just what's out there now, but love for its ongoing health.
Yes. Yes. So I want to add to that, that we are really fortunate that Laura's here this morning because she literally drove down out of the mountains to be with us, where she was probably writing, I'm guessing, because she has a book manuscript due this week. So I feel really blessed that you're here with us instead of up at your cabin, I bet. Yes,
I was
no?
actually visiting with friends and not writing.
Oh,
But what I
nice.
was really doing was I was looking for rocks. I mean, I just had this wonderful weekend of looking for beautiful
Mm,
rocks. I found this amazing crystal. I could go on and on. But speaking of love of earth and just trying to take a
yeah,
moment of peace to really explore
yeah.
and rock hound a little bit, not to collect them so much as just find them and appreciate them.
Find, witness, appreciate, all of that. Yeah. And I think that's, that's sort of the heart of this practice of terraphilia and this book, Earthbound, and much of your writing is stop, be aware, take a moment to be with all of the other beings who we share this planet with and ground yourself that way.
Yeah.
And I love this idea that you are visiting friends and rock hounding at the same time, because what a better way to be engaged with the Terra that we have a philia of.
Yes.
So
Yes. And I was born near these mountains and have, these are the mountains I love. And I don't want to say they're mine, but I mean mine in the sense of they're the ones I feel the most connected to and know the best.
I would say what my crow Absoluke friends say, that you are of them
Yeah. Oh, thank
and they are of you. And I think that's true. That's what I'm trying to remind people of. We are of the earth and the earth is of us. And that is kind of the right reciprocal relationship that Robin Kimmerer talks about, is if we remember that we are of the earth and the earth is of us, then we're kin.
you.
We're back to belonging instead of being separated from and somehow guilty about how we live. Um,
Hmm.
and I'm going to interrupt myself for just a minute and say, love having you all joining us. I see a bunch of names that I'm delighted to see, and new names. And please, anybody who has comments or questions, just tuck them in the chat, and I will try to pay attention to that, and we'll respond. I want to jump to teaching in the MFA program, because I think of that as, I know this is an academic word, but it's also true. I think of that as service work. You are in service to this earth and all the lives we share the planet with by teaching us about environmental writing. Talk about how that came about.
I believe it is service work, and I believe we need more storytellers and peacemakers and healers. And I, at some point, you're in life, you are mentored by others.
Mhm.
You were a mentor to me, and I can name other mentors who appeared in my life that helped my writing and taught me. And then somewhere along the way, you realize, like, oh, it's my turn to. I mean, it's always going both
Yeah.
ways, right? Of course, but to step into the role of teacher and embrace it wholeheartedly and do some really hard, I will say, administrative work of getting uh, programs going and curriculums designed and curriculums changed and, like a less fun work, but the more fun work of actually engaging in conversation with students. And as any teacher knows, when we are teaching, we are creating a space where learning is happening.
Yeah.
We are learning together, right? It
Yeah.
is in community and it is all happening. But how lucky am I that I get to be in community with people who have signed up for, um, for my main job for an MFA in nature writing, right? They've
Yeah.
already selected to be
Right.
caring uh, people who have something to say about the planet and whether it's sea otters or the family ranch or ocean pollution and ocean whatever, like we're coming together in shared community. And um, it's a great honor, truly. I mean, that phrase is overused, but it is a great honor to be working with such students.
I would say it's an honor, and also it's an honor you created because you dreamed up this program. Where did the idea come from, and how do you go about making an MFA program in environmental writing? I mean, how does that work?
Yeah. Well, I will say that y- the when I was hired into this job many years ago, there was like they had the title of it. It had been established as one of the fields. Like they have a program in poetry and screenwriting, and then
Right.
they had nature writing. But I got the job and I looked around at all the other programs or anything near it, environmental writing or environmental journalism, and there's not that many.
Mhm.
And the program I think that the university had in mind was something more steeped in like the romantics or say like Emerson and Thoreau and when people say nature writing, maybe like a historical overview, right? And I was
Yeah.
like, no, no, no. If I'm starting this, what I want to do is create a conversation about contemporary nature writing, what's
Yeah.
going on now, because it has evolved. And I'm not dissing the founders of what I think is a true genre created by a lot of wonderful writers who had conservation and an environmental ethic at their core. So
Right.
that's great. But it has gotten way more spicy and interesting and inclusive and
Yeah.
um, experimental and loud, right?
Yeah.
I think the it feels more like a rager. It used to be like a calm little tea party, and and now it's our like our, I hope it's raging. So that's I stepped in and changed the curriculum right away, and uh, started doing that kind of foundational building work. And I will say I think it's gotten better every year. We listen to what the students want to be reading or what topics they want to cover, eco grief, climate
Mm.
justice, um, uh, species decline. We tackle
Mhm.
some hard stuff, but also the celebration and the awe that is equally there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I'm presuming that you're not in the classroom the whole time,
Well, it's a low residency MFA, so the students are on their computers wherever they are, East Coast, West Coast, other
but you
countries.
get together in person.
We get together in person once a year in Gunnison, and yeah, we are outside as much as
Yeah.
we can be. We
Yeah.
Nobody likes fluorescent lights of academic buildings. But
Yeah.
a lot of our work, I think, is going out and doing writing exercises and what your book is about, like re-seeing, reappreciating, cultivating. These are muscles that can be worked.
Yeah.
And your book calls us to do this, like engage in the real work of um, communing with nature and the natural world.
Yeah. Which is we forget we are part of it, but we are also walking ecosystems.
Yeah.
There are, depending on our gender, and this is kind of interesting, women have more non-human cells or more than human cells than men do. But in any of our bodies at any time, there are somewhere around 2 times as many more than human cells, bacterial, all the other microbes that make up a part of what we think of as I or we, or we're really us. I am an us
Yeah.
because there are more of the microbes in what I think of the body inside the skin boundary by about 2.8 times than there are of human cells.
Love
So
it.
when we talk about nature and environmental writing, I think it absolutely has to come from within because we are that. We absolutely are that. And as the health of all of the other species in the world goes, so goes our health because
Mm.
we are ecosystems too.
Yeah.
So I find that really fascinating. So, what's your absolute, before we go on from teaching, and I want to talk about your upcoming book that you're working on, what's your absolute favorite part of the teaching? And what have you learned from it? That's 2 questions. Sorry.
My favorite part of my job, truly, is when I curl up on my couch with a cup of tea and read student work,
Mm,
mm, or any writer's work, and I'm just, like, really giving it my it's a meditative practice.
mhm.
Full attention is there, and I'm happy, and I feel that in my bones, like a good hike, you're like, "I'm happy. This is happy.
Yeah.
This is happy for me." So reading their work and their words and the way they're putting words together, I mean, we just have this kind of measly alphabet, and from it, we create a lot of meaning, and
Yeah.
that's magical to me.
Yeah.
And so just reading what they've come up with And then, being in conversation with them, okay, like, this is good. How do we make it better?
Yeah.
Or more effective, or say what we want to say in a truer way. That's a good conversation to have, because to my mind, it's a little like, I don't know, any kind of meditative practice or spiritual practice, anything.
Mhm.
It's like, can we get more real, more deep together? That's kind of the
Mhm.
question of so much of life.
That's a really interesting way of thinking of it. Writing it, language as a spiritual practice, using our language as a spiritual practice. I mean, uh, I've recently been talking with some other writers about writing as a spiritual practice, but the whole idea that I love your phrase measly alphabet, that we have this measly alphabet and out of it we try to make these really intense meanings. And if we think about how we use our words as a spiritual practice, I just wrote a Substack piece on dangerous words, all about it,
Mhm.
about othering other more than human lives, but also each other.
Mhm.
And I think, oh, yeah, when we're picking the words we use, if we come to it with um, a kind of spiritual practice, we're more likely to not subconsciously use habitual words that can wound and are dangerous. And boy, is that intense.
It is. It puts us on notice, and I love your Substack and your chapter in your book about the word "it," and I have a similar lecture that and chapter in my book of just language matters, the
Yeah.
words we choose, and it's, as you rightly point out, it's more than adding, like, a different pronoun, although, my friend, I could say the bird, "she flew off," but it maybe is even better to say my friend the bird or my sister, or, like,
Yeah.
there's just language choices, or, um, to that relationality, like, to be aware of it and be
Yeah.
in conversation with the world, not writing about the world.
Doesn't C. Marie Furman's just say bird flew off, capitalizing the B in bird?
That's yeah, that's
She
another
leaves off the pronoun entirely, which I think is really cool. Um, I have to say, since you mentioned the book, I just have to read the dedication, which comes at the end because that's where we could fit it. Um, with gratitude to the readers who generously support my Earthbound newsletter and to novelist Laura Pritchett, who nudged me to write this book. Because you did. Do you remember we were walking on the banks of the North Platte River in Wyoming, playing hooky from teaching at the Wyoming Writers Conference with Aaron Abeta, and he was fly fishing, and we were walking and looking at wildflowers and birds. And you said, "I want to have it as a. I want to have these dispatches as a book. I want to be able to savor them," and that just so stuck in my head. So thank you.
What a gift. That makes me so happy. I remember that conversation, and this might be a bit of blasphemy here, but, I have real trouble reading Substacks, because I read so much at the computer, and there's
Yeah.
a little part of me that, I just simply can't read more at the end of the day when I
Yeah.
have my reading time.
Absolutely.
And so what I wanted was and you had reawakened this idea that I could reclaim the word, spiritual. And I've always said nature is my religion, but, there's like a shyness I've had about talking about my spiritual life. And I think it came from, a bad experience that I had in my childhood with a different religion. And I just thought, I just want everything she's saying, but so much paper and pen, and I want to take my book outside. And so I love your Substacks, but it's gonna be I cannot wait for your book to come out. I'm gonna assign
You
it
can
to all
take it outside.
of
It's
them.
small enough to put it in a fanny pack.
I know, I've seen the arc of it, and I just, I wish the release date was tomorrow. I hope everyone pre-orders it right now.
It's, what's cool about it in person other than it's so funny because the designer Jenny Berry, who's my co-conspirator on this project, and she's amazing, Jennifer Berry of Jennifer Berry Design, um, she and I envisioned the book together, and the design is just extraordinary. I mean, she just did this beautiful job, but she also understood the size, and she advocated for all sorts of details that are super important, like it has a ribbon to mark your place. I love that. Um, it's just it's made to take outside, to tuck in your fanny pack. And when we got it, we knew what size it was, but there's 4 copies in existence. We got 4 ARCs because it's printed overseas and it's very expensive to get ARCs from books printed overseas. And it's also cloth bound, not paperback. And she got hers and she texted me and said, "It's a fatty," because it's a it's a sizable book, but you can still tuck it in your fanny pack. Anyway, enough about that. And I'm honored. Um, I guess I'm so fascinated by the fact that you took this program and just have run with it and are doing such cool things with it. And I want to segue from that into the book you're working on now. Talk about
Um,
a little bit about that, if you don't mind, the craft book.
well, I'd love to because I think I had the same or I'm curious, I wanna ask you, like, the same calling of, like, I really believe in these I could call them lectures or just discussions, these conversations about, and I want them about writing and nature, and I want them to be out in a book form, um, so that they reach more than, say, whoever signed up for a class,
Yeah.
and I say that humbly. It's not like I'm not saying I'm brilliant or anything, but, like, these are some ways that have helped my writing a lot and have helped me interact with the world in a more kind and compassionate and reciprocal and wise way, and I'm on that journey. I'm not any wise soul, but so I thought, yeah, I'd really like this book to come out and write it's called Writing for the World,
Mm,
Experimental Technique in Nature Writing, and, it's all about the forms that I feel really excited about now, and you'll see in some of my books, which are hermit crabs, flash, epistolary, episodic, listicle, um, bestiaries, ekphrastic works, like all these
mhm.
terms that, whether or not you know what they mean, it's just they're new and innovative ways of writing because, and I say this seriously, I think we need absolutely brand new ways of storytelling to talk about
Yeah.
something big like climate change or even our relationship with the world. It's evolving. Writing is
Yeah.
evolving and it should evolve and we need it to evolve so as to better express and love Mother Earth.
Yeah. Sweet Gaia, I call
Yes.
that community of intertwined and interrelating lives, which includes us. Um, I want to pick up on something you said right at the beginning of that, and that was that this writing is teaching you um, how to speak with others, how to converse with others, how to be a different way in life. And I think often when we talk about writing, we're not just talking about writing. We're talking about writing as a way to teach us to be m- more fully human, more more patient, more compassionate, more inclusive, less divisive, less quick to judge, all those kinds of things. And I think of writing as kind of the gateway drug or a gateway drug to practicing being um, a fuller human being. Because I think humans at our best quality, as I've written before, and I can't paraphrase myself because I lost my short-term memory when Richard died, so I can't remember my writing anymore. But this is probably good. It's harder to be judgmental of myself if I can't remember it. But our best quality as a species, I believe, is loving this earth and each other. And I don't mean romantic love. I mean that sort of cell deep affection for and connection to and belief in nurturing each other and this earth. Um, and writing is one way to write our way towards being better humans. And to me, that's better humans in concert with being members of the community of this earth. And so what you're talking about is so dear to my heart because I'm like, yes, we need new stories. We need better ways to use language. We need ways that speak to people who can't hear the existing stories. We need all sorts of new forms because they're what help us be more human.
Yes.
Lots of other cultures than the culture I was born into, which is the branch of, European settler culture that comes from Northern Europe. The ones who are unemotional and reserved and like to stand back and observe things. Lots of other cultures teach their young by storytelling. We do too, Um, but in lots of other cultures, storytelling is a more developed way to educate people. And so I think of writing as part of that way of transmitting knowledge and experience and hopes and dreams, you
Mhm.
know, grief and tragedy and all that. And so I love that you are working on a craft book that will encourage us to find new ways to talk about these things, to teach each other about these things, to commiserate with each other.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just wanna chime in and say I absolutely like myself as a human being more now than like, I have grown, as I hope we all do. That is one of the best things about being human too, is you can grow and you can self-reflect, and,
Yes.
growing away from my, childhood religion, which was very, hierarchical and divisive, and I think, in certain ways, racist and sexist and, really problematic, and and like you, I would and I think you talk about this openly, but I was diagnosed with something in my 20s that I late 20s that I thought I was gonna die, and from
Yeah.
that came exploring meditation and exploring writing and really trying to, like, if I was gonna die, I wanted to die happy and, like,
Yeah.
satisfied I had integrity and kindness, and, there's nothing like a facing down this illness or sickness that makes you like, "You know what? I wanna die a good person,"
Yeah.
and in every way I can, So it sends you down that journey, and writing for me, writing and being outside are the 2 main gateway drugs and meditation too, into that, path of how can I become more gentle, more kind, more compassionate, more less judgy, all of the things that,
Yeah.
we have to work on, we should work on.
Yeah. How can I be a good ancestor? Basically, to sum it up, to use language that lots of Indigenous folks use. Um, I just want to say, Beth Ann Matthews says, "So glad to be here with the two of you." And I'm just delighted to be here with Laura and having this conversation and to have all of you join. Jane Kirkpatrick says, "Loving the conversation of story, earth, and being human." Yes, me too. Um, Okay, I usually try to keep these to half an hour. They usually run over just a little bit. Rebecca Richard says, writing helps us because it necessarily slows us down. Mm. We truly consider the words we use and the way we say what we want to say. It's like practice for the conversational words for relating to each other and the more than human species. We must be patient with ourselves in the process. So how can we help being more thoughtful? Well, I love that, Rebecca. I have to say that for me, patience is probably my least strong muscle, especially with myself. But we try. We work at it. Um, Laura, do you have something else you wanna add about that? Otherwise, I'm gonna bring us to the question I like to close with.
Let's, circle back to that. That's a nice way to.
Okay. So the question I like to close with always is, what is a way you would offer our listeners, both here on the live and then beyond as a replay, on how to have a spiritual connection with nature in our daily lives at home? Um, and for some of us, and I want to make sure to include everyone. For some of us, that means we don't necessarily get outside even. We look out the window for people who are, mobility impaired and that kind of thing. And ho how do we reconnect with nature? How do we do that in our daily lives in a spiritual way?
I'm sure there's lots of answers to that question, and what a good question it is. I have one that I've been thinking about because I knew you were gonna ask me this. And it's the art of the direct address. And
Mm,
what I've been fascinated with lately is what happens when we directly address something we're seeing. So, for example, I directly address the clouds in the sky or the trees. I say, "Hello, tree. How you doing today?" And I get in conversation. And I think what that does immediately is it creates a sense of animism and like we're all there living together. The tree is also seeing me in whatever way we
mhm.
want to understand that. And it also positions ourselves in a place of conversation, of curiosity, of friendship, of reciprocity. Um,
Mhm.
and as writers, I think there's been some fabulous pieces written lately. I recently read a piece like 17 Ways of Encountering Wildflowers in Spring by Lee
Mhm.
Tonino. And he says, "Hello, Columbine." And then he has a
Mhm.
reflection on Earth and he listens to what the Columbine says, or hello, uh paintbrush, like he's just got
Yeah,
these like conversations going on, but it lends itself to a wonderful personal essay. So I encourage writers to try that too, to try to write a little piece in which you are doing the direct address, but also just as livers. I'm trying to go outside every day and just directly address the birds and be in conversation and then be quiet and
and
listen.
listen. Yeah,
Yeah.
and feel. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's great. I take a walk every morning, just around 6:30 around my neighborhood, just around my neighborhood and out the road, just outside town. And I call it my meets and bounds walk. That's an archaic, British custom used originally in surveying, where you walk the boundaries of a piece of property, which is an interesting concept in itself, but we won't go there. Um, it's still in use in the Episcopal Church, which I have a great affection for because as a Quaker living in the rural West, I haven't always had a Quaker meeting nearby, so I would go to the Episcopal Church because they're kind of closest in something to Quakers. And they do once a year, they'll walk around the church grounds in a spiritual way, greeting every part of the land and those who live there. And so in the morning, I go out on my meets and bounds walk and I say, as I go down my alley, hello, Siberian elms. I'm not fond of Siberian elms, but they make shade and I like to say hello to them in the morning. And I just walk on and greet all of the plants because I'm a plant person that I see. No doubt my neighbors, if they hear me, think I'm, you know, this side of crazy, but I don't care because I am relating to the world I live in on a regular basis. I'm greeting those and listening to those who I share this land with. So I think of that when I think of you, of this idea. And I want to read a comment. One small thing I started doing 2 days ago, says Beth Ann Matthews, is rather than eating at the kitchen table, I make a sandwich and grab some fruit and walk 2 blocks to a pocket park and eat there. Afterward, I take a short walk through a tiny patch of forest. And she
Mhm.
adds, I so connect with nature as my religion. Thank you. I think of religion. I have a hard time with the word religion, but I do think that my spirituality is based in nature. Um, Kind of probably for the same reasons, Laura, that you are not still involved in the church you grew up in. I have religion for me has all sorts of paternalistic, divisive, meanings that I don't like to go into. So,
But
so great practice.
we can take back the beautiful parts, right? The parts that were
Yes.
working for us.
Yes.
Speaking of the direct address and what you were just saying, one thing I want to add to my litany of direct addresses is also to say goodbyes.
Mhm.
Because, for example, if I just got up and walked out of this meeting, that would be weird, right? I got this from
Right.
Tonino too. So it would be nice to say, hey, thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you for providing the shade today. And goodbye. I'm going to go off and teach now or what.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
No,
just I like the hellos and the goodbyes, right?
that's a great point. And one I hadn't really thought to articulate. Um, I think that you hinted at this in your comment about what this practice means, but I think for me it basically means we're speaking as equals instead of I'm human, I'm above, I'm at the top of the pyramid, as it were. Um, it's a hello
Yes.
neighbor, goodbye neighbor, and I
Yeah.
love that.
Yes.
Jane Kirkpatrick, bless your heart, thank you, Jane, says one of the early meanings of the word religion meant trying again. Ooh, I
Like that.
love that. I love that. That's great. That gives me a new way to frame it. Does anybody on the call have any more comments? Because technically we should be wrapping up soon. And if not, last thoughts, Laura?
I just want to thank you for the good work you do, and I say this in all sincerity, your book is beautiful, and I do hope people, order it and share it and buy it as holiday gifts and so on. When I saw the arc, I thought, "Oh, this is beyond any expectation I had." Just the
Oh, I
artwork
love
and
that.
the layout. It is, a piece of art, and so I just wanna celebrate you and thank you for this really important work you're doing. We need to, be speaking up each in our own way,
Yes, we do.
and you have such a beautiful way of doing that.
Thank you. I would say goes ditto there. And I want to say again to the comment about different ways of telling stories to approach all of the things that are going on this planet today and with humans and more than human species, that Wally Stegner, and I'm going to paraphrase Wallace Stegner, the great Western writer, said in one of his lectures, I think, that every place needs a poet. And I think what he meant by that is not that we all need to start writing poetry because, that's not our medium for some of us, and that's fine. But what he meant was we all need to find the things to celebrate about our places and the natural communities and landscapes where we live, and we need to speak them out. We need to not be silent about it. We need to speak up and out and sing and dance and create art and do whatever we can to be passionate witnesses and advocates for the community of lives that we are so blessed to live in.
Hey, can I add one thought? That was such a beautiful thing, but I just wanna add one take it one step further, and I got this from Kim Stafford this summer I was attending. He's a wonderful nature poet. To get it out in the community, post your poem on a little free library or leave it in a little free library. Post it on bulletin board or hand it out at a
Yeah.
protest or, give a book of poetry to your neighbors or whatever, but, take it out into the world, give it that final little push because I think it might help somebody else. Like, it's not an act of ego, it's an act of humility and giving to
Yes.
put
Yes.
your words out.
Yeah. Yeah. Be the poet of your place and make sure
Take
that
it.
you disseminate that into the world because that's a gift. That's a gift. And I'm going to end this by saying, Vicki Hamilton comments, thank you for this conversation. I talk to the moon, birds, and trees. My kids find it funny. Yes, but Vicki, they are going to grow up understanding a really deep relationship with this earth. And that's a gift. That's a gift.
Yes.
So Laura, thank you so much. What a treat it is to have a conversation with you. I feel so enriched. To you all, thank you for joining in. And the replay for this will be on my Substack newsletter. I will make sure Laura has the link to it so she can share it as she wishes. My Substack newsletter comes out on Thursdays. It's free if you wish to subscribe, easy. And Laura, what a treat. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Everyone have a beautiful day on this beautiful
Beautiful
planet.
planet. Let's end there. Blessings.
Take care, everyone.
Bye bye.